Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, all our HS Today readers and fans. Welcome to our book talk for the month. This is Christina Tanaschuk, Executive Editor of Homeland Security Today, and we're just thrilled today to sit down with Ken Valentine, who is a former special agent of the Secret Service, and he's also the author of Cheating Death. Now, if that isn't the coolest title ever, I don't know what is. But we're very excited to talk with him about Cheating Death. Three-time presidential Secret Service agent lives to tell you how. So welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Christina. I am so glad to be with you today.
We are too. So HS Today, as many of our readers know, has an ongoing vertical devoted to leadership. And while this book is also very sexy about cheating death, it also has a lot of lessons for leadership. And you don't stay alive by not understanding leadership. So it talks about what to do, and also really fits with our vertical on leadership, who we have like columnists like Sandra from an admiral from the Coast Guard, who's also written a book on leadership, and really delves into the complexities of dealing with Homeland Security challenges as a leader. So your book certainly talks about your background, but it does have a lot of leadership lessons. So tell us a little bit more about what prompted you to write it, and your experiences since.
Sure. I'll be glad to, and I appreciate all the prompts there, and I love talking about cheating death. So, the book actually started as a letter, and in the Secret Service we travel a lot. I was traveling with President Clinton, President Obama, President Bush, and I found myself gone from home a lot, and we ended up with 5 children. And as much as I was gone, I felt like I was missing out on some things. And honestly, the thought occurred to me, what if I don't make it back from a trip? And, not that, something great and, historically noteworthy would happen, but what if the plane goes down? Or what if I get hit by a car while I'm crossing the street in Budapest? So that thought kind of lingered in my mind. So I started writing letters to my kids from overseas, and I would take them down to the hotel desk and, put the cool foreign stamp on them and then mail them to my kid back in the US. And I did that for years, 74 countries, lots and lots of trips. And what I found was that I kind of ran out of advice to give them. I felt like a broken record, so to speak. And later in my career, I was assigned to Philadelphia, and that was an assignment without the family. So they stayed in DC while I was up in Philadelphia, mainly working on the Pope's visit to Philadelphia in 2015. And my sister had given me a leather-bound journal, and she said, "You have got to put your stories in a journal for your kids." And so I had these concepts of, giving life advice to my kids and telling stories to the kids, because I just wasn't a very good, push and play kind of device, where they would say, "Tell us a good story." And I can't think of a good story. But then when things would come up, they would get a good story out of me, but it was almost by accident. So I was trying to be a little more intentional. And what I found was that I was merging the advice with the stories. And when I was done, I've had something that looked kind of like chapters. And I shared what I had written with a friend of mine who, it turns out, had published a lot of books. And he said, if you just want to give this to your kids, he said, I can recommend a company that'll bind it up and make it look like a book, and you can give it to them for Christmas. He said, but I've read what you wrote, and I think it's going to have wider appeal. He said, I think you've got something here. And so I said, well, okay, but I just want to give it to the kids. And he said, well, I'm recommending that you think a little broader, and let's see if a publisher wants to publish this. And sure enough, we found one. It wasn't quick, but we did find one. And so, off to the races we go. But that's really how it got started, with me just writing. And it was really just letters to my kids.
That's an amazing story. So tell us all this. I mean, I hear from my daughter that I'm a broken record all the time. So I say the same things over and over, and I'm always making my case. What do you think is some of your best advice that came out of some of these stories?
Yeah. Well, the advice, I ended up with 10 chapters, and I was talking about your identity, I talked about faith. Um, sorry about that. I talk about leadership for sure. I talk about decision making, and then about hardship and friendship and all the ships that come into your life. And so, it was really more about how do you navigate life and how do you lead yourself in addition to leading a team, and then the stories that kind of back that up. So when I'm talking about leadership, I talk about President Bush, and I talk about a golf outing with President Obama, where we with Tiger Woods, and the importance of vision. And so it was funny how the leadership, the hardship, the friendship, and decision making. I had a story that kind of dovetailed with each of those pieces of advice.
That's always the best way to do it. I guess even in the old days, you had Aesop's fables, you had all the stories that really taught a lesson. So it sounds like you're there with all the classics.
That's good. Good point.
Yeah. And so you talk a lot in the book about, of course, teamwork and collaboration. So tell us a little bit more about how you collaborated with others and some of your leadership lessons learned from collaboration, because some people get assigned a group project and they kind of want to jump off a bridge. How do you turn those kind of forced group projects into something good and lead through them well?
Great question, Christina. And it's really one of my favorite things to talk about, because the Secret Service doesn't exist without collaboration. I mean, we're one of the oldest law enforcement agencies out there, but what we've found is that we're so small that we can't do anything on our own. And so whether it's an investigation that we've undertaken or if it's a protective advance type of mission, the first thing we do, and this is true whether we're showing up to Des Moines, Iowa, or Miami, Florida, or Bakersfield, California, or any country overseas, the very first thing we do is we go look for help, because a handful of Secret Service agents cannot put together a protective advance for the President of the United States, no matter where they go. So the notion of collaboration is not just something that we look for; it's what we live and breathe. Because if you make it through the Secret Service Academy with this mentality that you're some kind of super person, that gets winnowed out pretty quickly, because the first thing that a seasoned agent is going to do is show you how to go ask for help, and do it professionally, but do it with some urgency, because the mission requires it. So collaboration and the need for others is really that's the fiber of the Secret Service. And without those partnerships, we really couldn't and wouldn't do the job that we do.
Absolutely. So can you tell us one exciting story from the book and teach us
You
a
bet.
lesson all
I
at
can
once?
tell you all you want. I've got all day, Christina.
Well, we want them to read the book.
Well, I alluded to Tiger Woods on. We were at the Floridian Hotel in California, or in Florida. I'm sorry, the Floridian is in Florida. So, and it's President Obama playing golf with Tiger Woods. And we get to the 18th hole, and I'm not a golfer, but I've been on a lot of golf courses with a couple of different presidents. And Tiger Woods, of course, is putting on a clinic of how to hit the ball, and he's really taking it easy. But he's much more interested in talking about security. And so it was a little awkward that he was spending more time with me than he was with the president. But I was the operational shift leader for that time, and so we were having a great discussion about stuff. And speaking of collaboration, I was pointing out because he was curious, how do you affect security out here on a golf course on a day like today? And I pointed out what I could. I pointed out the fact that here's a body of water next to the 18th hole. And if you look out there, you see there aren't any boats except for one, and it had the Coast Guard emblem on it. And if you look up above, the Floridian kind of is the imposing structure behind the 18th green. Up above that, off in the distance a little bit, you see that orange helicopter. Well, that's the Coast Guard helicopter. So a big collaborative effort going on here, but I'm talking to him about radios and weapons and, just kind of our strategy for a 360-degree sphere of protection. And now it's Tiger's turn to hit. And in the leadership chapter, I talk about the importance of vision and how good vision can change how you lead. And Tiger Woods gets up. Well, the 18th hole, the fairway is to the right, and then it juts back to the left, and then there's the green. Well, to the left, it's all water, and in front of you, it's sand and trees and all this other stuff. So you can go for a straight-on shot, but if you don't hit it perfectly, your ball's in trouble, because if it goes off the edge of the green, I think it was water or sand or rough of some kind. But a good shot, a really good shot, could get you all the way to the clearing to the right. And so President Obama had hit the ball right down the center of the fairway. Is a terrific shot. It didn't make it all the way to the clearing, but he could kind of cheat from there over the edge of that jut back and try to get up to the green. Tiger Woods gets up and destroys this ball. Again, not a golfer, but I've watched a little bit of golf on TV. The sound is different when you're in person. I know that. But he hit the ball out to the left. And I initially thought that Tiger was trying to give a souvenir to the Coast Guard, because that's how far left he hit the ball. And everyone's kind of watching this thing, and this ball just keeps rising and going away. And then all of a sudden, that ball starts slicing back to the right, and it just keeps slowly coming back to earth, slicing all the way. And it hits the left edge of the green, kind of right in front of us, and rolling toward the hole. And I said, Tiger Woods could do that because Tiger's got the vision to know more than one or two ways to approach his goal. And good leaders, great leaders, with that kind of vision and that kind of practice and confidence can approach their goals in a similar manner. They don't have to take the traditional approach. They can introduce a little more risk into their approach to the goal, or you can go complete unicorn and go out to the left the way Tiger Woods does and come at it from a totally different vantage point. And so the chapter is about vision, but the example was none other than Tiger Woods just taking a different approach to his goal.
Well, and you could argue that he has the vision to see where that ball's going to go more than the average person, given his incredible golfing skills. Because I know I have tried to be a golfer. I'm not a golfer. I do enjoy it, though. It's a great sport. I wish I was better at it, working on that. So when you look back at all of the leadership lessons you've learned, which one do you find that in every situation you're like, yep, proves it again. What is that long-standing proven kind of lesson you've learned?
Yeah. I broke leadership down into three buckets: vision, discipline, and integrity. The one lesson, though, that stands out to me is it goes back to vision, and it stems from the practical application is from looking at cones. And so in our protective operations driving course, you had to navigate cones, driving the limousine and learning how to navigate that. But you could not effectively get through the protective operations driving course in the requisite amount of time if you weren't going really fast. And in order to go really fast, you had to use hands, you had to use feet, but the key in all of that was where you put your eyes. And the hands and the eyes have a special way of working together, hand-eye coordination. But the key to getting through the course was that you had to look towards your goal. You had to look towards your destination. And if you didn't look at the destination, where else would you look? Well, you're looking at at the cones. You're looking at the ground in front of you. And when we look at the cones and we go fast enough to make time, to make it in enough time, you hit the cones because you're just going too fast, and your hands and your eyes work together to hit that which you are looking at. So what they taught us was to lift our gaze off of the cones. And in my personal life, this is where that kind of plays out, is if you're always focused on the problems and those cones are problems, well, then you're going to hit the problems. And if you're so perfectionistic that every cone matters, well, then you get stuck looking at each individual cone instead of looking towards your goal, toward the prize where you want to go. And if you look toward that goal, you can go super fast and still get there without hitting cones. And so it's almost like magic, but it really does work, that when we lift our gaze up off the cones of life and look toward the goal that we've set for ourselves, you tend to hit the goal.
That's fantastic. I love that example. And that's very true because it's almost like you go into like automatic and you know what you're doing and you sort of see the cones, but you're not as focused on them. That's such a great lesson. What a great lesson. I think that's going to be the quote we pull out to promote the heck out of this interview. I want to thank you for your time today. I want to encourage our readers to take some time and read Cheating Death, not only to learn about Ken's exciting stories, but also to learn by accident all the leadership lessons. Thank you, Ken, for writing the book and making some time to join us today.
My pleasure, Christina. Thank you so much.
Of course. And if you're looking for more to read, just go to www.hstoday.us to our book talk section and see all the interviews we've done, and certainly books that we recommend you read, even though we may not have interviewed the author. But we were very fortunate today and hope to see you again soon. Thank you for tuning in.